Hey guys, welcome back to another Weird Wednesday. I'm Ashers, and this is.
Pat O.
And also,
Courtney Block.
oh my gosh. So it's no surprise to you guys, we are having guest time. It's guest month and a half, right? I mean, we're like booked up all the way through up to like mid September, and then probably beyond that. So we are going to continue to bring you guys another round of amazing guests that, of course, you guys nominate and you tell me that you want to hear on the show. That opportunity is not really closed. If you guys decide you can think of somebody else you'd like to hear on the show, just let me know and I will bother them in their DMs and cyberbully them until they agree to come on. Courtney knows I bullied her into coming on. It was so difficult. I had to twist her arm to get her on here. So obviously that's not true. Pat O, how was your weekend?
It was pretty good. I did not go to Cryptid Bash. I did not go to the Midwest Conference of the Unknown. I did not go to Flashback Weekend here in Chicago, nor did I go to the Bigfoot Festival in Ohio. Most of my friends on social media were at one of those four, and I was on my couch watching Hellier, watching Shaw Brothers movies, and watching Prey Friday night with my daughter.
Wow.
So yeah, I didn't do shit. I just kind of hung out and watched TV. Powered through. I was reading Sex and Rockets: The Occult World of Jack Parsons by John Carter, and I've been wanting to read it for a while now. I think Aaron Dees had mentioned it on one of his Instagram live things, and it had been in my book queue. And with me rewatching Hellier, or not rewatching Hellier, but watching season 2 for the Patreon, it kind of motivated me to get off my ass and actually read it. So that was good. And then I powered through that because I wanted to start researching the paranormal, Courtney's book, so that I could be an effective interviewer this week.
Okay.
But that's it. Yeah. Lots of reading, lots of watching stuff.
Spoiler free. How did you like Prey?
I dug it. I thought it was good. You know what I mean? My daughter wasn't. So I thought one of the reviews that I read said that it was like a YA, Predator movie or something, or that it was kind of like geared towards like, teenage girls. And I was like, okay, cool. So I'll watch it with my daughter. And she could not have cared less.
Oh.
Like, didn't care that it was a female protagonist. Didn't care that it had a strong feminist message. Didn't give a shit. Me and my son were completely enthralled by it. We thought it was awesome, but she could give two fucks. So, I don't know if that's what it was really going for, but as an action movie, it was very effective. I dug it.
Sure.
The Predator movies are kind of like, I don't count the Alien versus Predator ones because those are garbage. But as far as like the core Predator films, they're all pretty solid. Like there's not too many missteps. There's not like a huge number of them. They're one of the, I feel like the better curated franchises. And, Predator 2 is kind of like one of, I would say probably like my favorite one of the series. I mean, the first one's a classic, but the second one's really strong. And I would say that this one, Prey, is right up there, definitely within the top 3.
Sure. I liked it. I mean, with Predator, you get what you just, they like to hunt people. That's it. And are the people going to live? Somebody will, and so that's it. It's all the same formula. People are being so nitpicky about certain things. And it's just like, at some point in time, you guys got to just stop and maybe realize that you don't like movies as much as you think that you do. Because it's just good fun, right? I mean, who cares about the lore and the bullshit? If you want the lore and the shit, go read the comics, get off the big screen and go read the comics. This is just for exactly what it was, an hour and 40 minutes of just fun, and that's what it was. It delivered. Courtney, did you watch the Prey movie? Or maybe you're not a Predator fan? I don't know.
No, I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard people talking about it, and I like the Predator movies. And it was funny because earlier today I was browsing some things on Hulu, because you can watch it through Hulu, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I saw, I was thinking to myself, maybe I'll watch it later tonight. So I do plan on watching it. So yeah.
You'll like it. Well, I don't know. I guess we don't know each other. I'm just going to assume that you'll like it.
I probably will. I mean, if it has like a female protagonist and a feminist message, like you were saying, Pat, I will probably dig it.
Did anyone watch Sandman this weekend?
I did not watch Sandman. I probably won't.
That's the other one that was all over the internet. I watched the first episode. My sleep schedule was all fucked up. So like I was up late one night and I watched the first episode. And I was not a huge Sandman's like a little bit before my time as far as I mean, I love comic books in high school, but I was probably like 5 years after that. Like when I started reading Vertigo comics, like that's when Sandman was ending. So it's kind of like a bit too old for me. Um,
Sure.
but yeah, it's like the big. Hopefully, it does well. I like Neil Gaiman. I like his books and his comics. So, American Gods was kind of a huge hit. So hopefully they do multiple seasons of it. I only read like the first two trade paperbacks of it, so I'm like vaguely familiar with it, but I don't know the whole entire series and all the lore and shit.
So you're saying that if you like it or don't like it, it doesn't matter because your opinion doesn't matter because you didn't read it?
Right, I think like you pretty much know if you're gonna like you said you're not gonna watch it, right? Like you're just like
No,
fuck,
I'm
I'm
not
gonna
gonna
watch
watch it.
it.
Yeah.
See, like you know already, I
Yeah.
think.
Right. I'm not
I
gonna
think
watch
most,
it.
right, like I think people pretty much get it, you know.
Sure. Okay. Well,
So
Courtney, how was your weekend?
Oh my goodness. Okay. My weekend was jam-packed. And also too, like Pat, you were saying, I didn't realize there was so much stuff going on this weekend. Um
Yeah.
like the Bigfoot Festival in Ohio. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, I was there. I'm going to talk about that when it's my turn.
Oh my
I
God.
went there.
Okay. I'm so glad you went there because I want to hear about that. But yeah, I was at the Midwest Conference on the Unknown, and that was held in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, which was a beautiful little town. I had the opportunity to wander it a little bit at the conference this weekend, but it was the first time that this conference has been held and organized by Michael Huntington and Ken Murphy. And it was just such a wonderful conference. Like it was just so smooth. Everything seemed pretty seamless. The people that I got to meet, it was so lovely. And
Yeah.
I got to talk to people about, research and gathering research and how to find information. So it was like the marriage of like my librarian self and my weirdo self. And I just had so much fun.
Wow. Well, congratulations on your marriage. That's
Thank you.
it looked like it was a lot of fun. I had no idea this was even an event going on until like just this week when I saw the Waylands were posting about it. They're like, we're gonna be there, and I'm like, how do I never know about these things until they're right there.
yeah, we have that like Facebook chat group, and I just assumed that they would be notifying me every time they drove past my house, and they
Right.
literally. I mean, I'm not. I'm assuming they drove straight through my state to get from Wisconsin to St. Louis.
They drove they drove and even parked right in front of your fucking house.
No, I
Laughed
live right
about it.
off. I live right off 57 and 94. They would have had to have drive literally right by my house, and not a single word, not a
And
single
then
fucking word. So thanks, guys.
so
I'm
you
going to
did it.
Madison in October, and like I let them know, and we set up a whole thing, and like yeah, if I go into their territory, I let them know first. They come through
Oh.
Chicago all the time, and they don't say shit to me.
Oh my
So
gosh. I'm that
whatever.
way. I'm that person. I'm like, I'm gonna be just in that vicinity of somebody. Let me see if I can stop real quick. But some people aren't, it's with these long drives. I like that though. I like breaking up the long drive and like taking a break to go do something and like a detour. I think it helps. Um, Certainly makes the trip more interesting. So I don't know. I wouldn't take it personally, but it was 100% personal. The Waylands are just mean. They're just so mean, and that's how they are. This is propaganda, by the way. That's not real. Um, no, they're great people. That sounds fantastic. Did you do well on your? I'm assuming it was there a lot of people? Did a lot of people show up?
Yes. So I think that for a first time conference, it was very well attended.
Good.
I have gone to paranormal conferences, conventions like in the past, but this was my first time being a speaker and being like on that side of things. And I think so I don't really have anything to compare it to in terms of being like a speaker, but I think for a first time conference that it was very well attended and it's gotten people's attention, and they're hoping to do it again next year. And my session was on Sunday morning.
Ooh.
So I think for having my session be Sunday morning at 10 a.m., that the turnout was really good. I mean, I think there was maybe
Right.
15 to 20 people, which, I mean, like I said, for a first time conference, I think was, pretty decent.
Yeah, and
Sure.
if each one of those people buys a book, you get like $14,000, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
But
The
um, I'm just
volume
going off the
there.
price of these things. I'm like, Jesus, you only need to sell like 7 a year. You
Oh
can
my
retire.
god.
But what I thought was cool about that conference was that, yeah, it was 3 days. I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
these conferences are 6 hours on one day. And was there a Friday night, or did you guys just set up Friday?
There was, yeah, the conference did start on Friday. So it
Friday,
opened.
Saturday, Sunday, like
Yeah,
that's a lot of content. You don't
it
That's like a
was.
comic book convention or something. You know what I mean? Like you don't see
Yeah,
that for the paranormal conventions a lot.
it
So
was a lot.
that's really
Yeah.
impressive they could pull that off.
Yeah, it was really really good. I think that one of the co-hosts, Ken, I believe that he and his wife have hosted and been involved with comic cons at that same convention center in the past, and so I think I got the sense they definitely brought a lot of experience with them to, yeah, so that might explain
Good.
some of that.
Well, that's great. Well, I'm glad
Yeah.
that you had a productive weekend and that you still had the energy to get up on a Monday to talk to us.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it was so funny that you say that because, yeah, I messaged you right before this and I was like, "So, is this audio only or is there video?" And I am so glad that you said it's audio only because I am a little exhausted.
just a little. No, I wouldn't do that to you. I'm not a slave driver. And no, like I said, if if I have to podcast with clothes on, then it's just not worth my time. Um,
That was the perfect response. I love, like, it should go like cross stitched on something, like a pillow or a
oh my
frame or
god,
something.
we can make t-shirts. Um, Usually that's how the t-shirts come about. Well, great. I'm glad. I'm glad that you're here. I had a good weekend. Like I said, went to the Hocking Hills Bigfoot Festival, which was the first one that this group of people have ever held. Um, there is a big Bigfoot festival in Ohio that happens twice a year. But this was separate from that. And this was the first time that they did it. And so we went, it was on Friday and Saturday, and we went on Saturday. And when we got there, and we probably got there mid-afternoon, pretty much everything was sold out. So that's a really good sign that a lot of people, showed up, and that's great. It was popular. Um, I went, I saw our buddy Jeff Craig, who he's been on the show before. He did the Map in Black. He was there. Always great to see friends at one of these things. I think he was the only person that I knew that was there, so that felt good. But he was already, I mean, he said, yeah, they've done really well. And it rained. I mean, God, it rained all weekend and people still showed up for it. But it was fun. They did, they had a Bigfoot call contest, each day. So you could go and do your Bigfoot call. There were casts there. It was actually the first time that I'd ever in person seen some of these Bigfoot casts. I saw the Paul Freeman cast and I saw the Patty cast, and then they had some casts that were actually taken in Ohio. So that was really neat. But it was disgustingly hot, and not so much hot. It was fucking humid, and it was disgusting, and you could just stand there and not do anything and just pour sweat, and that sucked. But that's a summer con for you. That's out outside. So it was good. I actually watched a lot of things this weekend, and that does not normally happen. So I do this thing where I work myself to death and then I just fucking crash and burn and I'm just like, fuck it, I'm not doing anything. That's what I did this weekend. And that's when I get a lot of like my media intake in. So I did that. I don't recommend it. But that's what I did. And I watched Prey, and like I said, I liked it. I finally watched the McPherson tape.
Oh
Um,
wow,
I did.
you
Finally.
never saw that?
No, never did.
Wow, what'd you think?
You know what? I'll be honest with you. Like the beginning sequence when they're like just having the birthday party and they're just normal people. I'm like, this is all really believable. They're kind of looking for the
Yeah.
UFO and they're like, they're looking for it and they're like, oh, remember that time we ate those beans? And they start talking about farting. And then like, that was all really believable and genuine. But then it's
Hmm.
like after the shit goes down, the acting goes down. It goes way down.
Yeah. Well, I've seen the movie since then, but the way it was presented to me was channel I don't know what the UPN, or I forget. It was channel 50 here in Chicago, but they ran a special that was where they took excerpts from the McPherson tape, and they cut in talking head footage with like fake crime scene investigators and police and ufologists and stuff, to make it seem like this was a tape that was found footage, right? And
Right.
it was a panel of experts that were reviewing it and talking about what we were seeing in different segments. So you didn't have to watch it all the way through. So they could cut out some of the weaker stuff,
Okay.
and it seemed a lot more believable. I mean, the costumes are still like
They're
kind,
terrible.
yeah, but you know what? It's one of those things where like, what would it? You don't know what an alien looks like, so there's that, and the fact that it's from a distance, it's like you can easily see that it would be a costume, but it's not so up close that you can see the zipper or anything. And when they do it, if they use it sparingly, um, then it works just enough to be unsettling. Well, for me at least, as a kid, it was very unsettling, you know.
Well, and this
Um,
was before the Blair Witch Project,
oh
right?
yeah,
This was
this was
before
like
found footage.
92.
Yeah, what we know it now, so I could see, and like the beginning of it, it kind of starts off with like this kind of Texas Chainsaw Massacre title card, oh, this really happened, it's real. And then it's all shot on video, and I mean, and it's really poorly shot. I mean, instantly all the power goes out and it's nighttime, so it's
Right.
very easy movie to make. It's not the worst movie I've ever seen. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for what it was.
Hmm.
So it was good. And then I also watched the Woodstock thing on Netflix,
Oh, I haven't seen that yet, but I want
and
to.
it was I guess it's good. I mean, if you're into like tragedies, and like, we all know about the what was the one that happened last year, the Astro World tragedy that happened. I mean, if you're into stuff like that, then you'll be into the Woodstock thing on Netflix. So anyway, that was my weekend. I don't have any news this week. Sad, right? Um, but I don't know. There's some things out there. I posted a UFO video on the Discord. If you guys are part of the Patreon, you can get on there and watch that. It's there. Speaking of the Patreon, Pat kind of spoiled a little bit, but that's okay. We are going to be covering Hellier, and talking about our thoughts on it. Pat O, just you finished it, didn't you?
Yeah, I finished season 2 on. I was texting you like, what was it, Saturday morning,
About it, yeah.
something?
Well, I was
Yeah,
at the festival, so.
right. So yeah, that was. Yeah, and we haven't done the episode yet, but I will say that coming at it as both a content creator, somebody that has made films, a filmmaker, and then also kind of like somebody that's really into the paranormal, someone that's really into the occult, somebody that has been an entertainer before. Um, I come at we're this isn't just like us shit talking Hellier for the sake of being edge lords.
Right.
Like I'm bringing a very nuanced, very broad range of critique to this. And spoiler alert, I didn't hate all of it. I there's a lot of it there, and there's a lot to unpack, and we're going to get to it in the podcast, in the Patreon episode. But yeah, I'm really excited to talk about it in depth because there's so much going on, and then especially
Yeah.
having just read the Jack Parsons book, and even kind of getting into Courtney's book that we're going to talk about this today. Like, I don't want to say there's a lot of synchronicities, because that sounds like you're drinking the hell of your fucking tea, but like it all came along at the right time. There was
Sure.
a lot of stuff that kind of lined up, and I'm very excited to talk about it.
Sure.
Courtney, are you familiar with the show at all?
I am familiar. Yeah, I actually really like it. And and yeah, I am familiar with Hellier, and I've rewatched it a couple of times, and
Wow.
yeah. Um I like the some of the sort of like philosophical questions that it raises. I think I probably bring a different viewer perspective to it than you do, because I have zero experience with films or filmmaking or anything. But yeah, and I also like live right on the border of Kentucky. I live right across the river from Louisville, Kentucky, so there's that sort of Kentucky perspective to it as well.
Please say Louisville again.
Louisville.
Mm.
That's oh my god.
Sorry.
But you didn't
Just a
like
thing I have.
Ritual.
Just a thing I have. Louisville.
That's a first.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
really? Oh,
Apparently,
Never mind.
Courtney, you need to record that one and sell it.
I had no. I dated a girl from Louisville, and she was really into like techno music, and I recorded her once in Louisville, and then I put together a like a house music track with like the
Oh my
sample of her
god.
Louisville.
You
It was,
would.
oh,
You're so
it makes my
weird.
toes curl. Jesus.
Wow.
This is
Um,
hilarious.
gosh. I told you should have listened to it before you agreed to come on. No, I'm just
No.
um yeah, well, no, so it's right, judgment free on what your opinions are about Hellier. Again, if you're paying for the Patreon, you're paying to hear our opinions about it, and right. So some people that are investigators absolutely fucking hate it, and some people that are fans absolutely fucking love it. So I mean, you kind of have you either love it or you hate it kind of opinions, and we've got our own opinions to share about it. So if you want to hear what we think about Hellier, from the perspectives of people that work in the field and whatever, then go subscribe to the Patreon. So
I think it's an extremely effective piece of media. Let me put it like that. I think it does what it does very, very, very well.
I agree with that part.
And you can debate the
Authenticity.
well, that's like not like the scruples, but the I don't know what the fucking word I want to use. It is what it is. I don't know.
Sure.
Let's reduce it to that. It is what it is. But we'll get into that.
We'll get into that, and you have to pay for us to get into it. So, there you go. There's also, hey, the new episode of Weird World is out. You subscribe to the Patreon, you get all episodes of Weird World thus far. What did we do last time? Arkansas?
Yeah.
A good one. And plus just all the other stuff. There's so much stuff. Just go over there, try it out for a month. If you hate it, then leave. It's fine.
Yeah, I think the Hellier episode is definitely gonna be one of those like sign up for a month, check out the Hellier episode.
Sure.
And if you hate it, you hate it, and if you don't, it'll be worth the check in, go through everything, and then make your decision.
I agree with that. Well, just like we did, we have our Lost episode is also over there. So
yeah,
only place you can hear it. And some people decided to subscribe just for the one time, and then they left, and I cried about it, but I didn't judge them to their face. So it's fine. It's whatever. Things happen. Anyway, so we have Courtney Block here. Courtney, what is it that you do?
Oh, thanks. I never really know how to answer
Me
that
neither.
question, but I'll just hit some highlights here. So,
Sure.
I am a librarian at a university here in Southern Indiana, and I'm also a writer and author, paranormal historian, if you will. So, I like to talk about all aspects of the paranormal. I've always been super interested in it. I think I remember I was just telling somebody at the conference this weekend that one of the first stories that I ever remember consuming about the paranormal when I was a kid was the story about Loch Ness, and then the Tower of London and how it's like haunted. And so I just love talking about the ways in which people can locate paranormal resources themselves. Recently, that's sort of like what I've been into on my Instagram. I love finding newspaper articles from like the 1800s about strange occurrences and ghosts and hauntings or whatever, and just reading them and showing people how they can locate those resources themselves.
I think that is a really great I mean, I think that's something that's needed, there's so much out there about the paranormal, right? And so it's hard to like have these kind of references or places that you can go to even start digging into the research. So what you just got into it because you were just a weird kid that was in, I mean, most of us were, but But is that your origin story?
A little bit, yeah, that's part of it, and the other part is that when I used to work in public libraries before I moved over to academic libraries, and people constantly would come in and say things like, there's some strange stuff happening in my house. Do you have any records here in your archives or your local history room that can maybe just help me figure out what might be going on, or add to my knowledge of things. And then at the university, when I started working at the university, the paranormal interest and inquiry didn't stop. But what I noticed would happen is that students would approach the reference desk in
Mhm.
one of two ways about the paranormal. And they would either say things like, they would either be apologetic about having an interest, and they would say things like, this is probably really silly, or you probably think this sounds stupid, but I'm interested in ghosts. I want to do my research paper on ghosts. Or they would say things like, there's probably no credible information about ghosts, which is what I want to write about, so can you just help me find a different topic? And I always thought both of those things were really unfortunate, because nobody should be ashamed of having an interest in something that's just, sort of on the so-called fringes, if you will. And also, it's just, that assumption, that perception that there's not credible inquiry and research into these topics is just incorrect. And so I started thinking, like, how can I use my librarian skills to combine these things? And that's a little bit more of the origin story.
Okay. I think that's
Yeah,
fun.
I think that's exactly what you did with researching the paranormal. Is you interjected your academic background into a curiosity about the paranormal. And that is something that I think a lot of paranormal investigators, air quotes, definitely need to utilize more, is the science behind inquiry and how to legitimately go about researching stuff. And I mean, you demystify a lot of stuff with it, like just kind of breaking it down, like this is how you would look up UFO sightings, and really it's kind of the same, not too much different than you would researching something for school or whatever, But by giving people a textbook, which is going to be my next, like, is this being taught anywhere? Because it feels like it should be. It feels like this should be part of a class or something. Like I don't know where, but like,
You can get a degree in parapsychology, and to my knowledge, that seems to be more popular in the UK. It's not a standard around the US, but I believe in the UK it's kind of a big thing. It's not as big here.
right. Well, any self-taught paranormal researchers, this is the kind of this is the kind of book that they should have on their shelf. Um, even more so than firsthand accounts or biographies about famous occultists or something. Like this literally lays the groundwork for you going out and doing your own research, and going about it in a legit and academic way.
Thanks for saying that. I just really wanted people to yeah, know that there are credible resources and credible historians, and lots of different ways that you can, access resources. And here, like, let me provide you some of these resources right there in the book that you can go, purchase yourself, or ask your library to get a copy for you. And it's funny that you say, is this being taught anywhere? So I taught a class the summer of 2020, so the height of the pandemic. I taught an online class about pretty much what my book is all about, the intersection of the research process with topics on the fringe. And it was a way for people to really sort of challenge their assumptions and stereotypes about the paranormal, but also about what it means for a topic and a person to be credible.
Was writing this book part of a grad school project?
No,
Okay.
no. I so it's sort of a funny story. In late 2018, I think November or December, I was going through some just burnout, and I saw an email come through a listserv, just a library listserv that I subscribe to. And it was from my publisher, who was saying that they were accepting proposals for their new series of, reference works. And if you had an idea, to just send it off to them. And I remember sort of seeing that email and being like, oh, sure. Let me send my idea to write this book about ghosts and hauntings and, whatever. And I sort of just flippantly put my idea out there. And I never expected to hear anything back, because I was like, oh, they're gonna get this and they're gonna be like, what a weirdo. Isn't that funny? And then I got an email that said, hey, tell us more. I was like, oh,
That's
no
awesome.
shit.
Yeah. I mean, that's just it sounds like you just started doing what you needed to do exactly when you needed to do it. And sometimes it
Yeah,
just works out that way. I think that's great.
there
Uh,
is a yeah, there is a bit of aspect about that.
right.
Yeah, like it seemed to happen when it needed to happen, like you said. And I think about that sometimes, and I think too about the message that taught me about, as much as I tell students to lean into their weirdness, it was a little message for me too, a reminder to lean into my weirdness and just shoot your shot, like what's the worst that could happen?
Sure. Absolutely. And I mean, and look at you now. You just did a talk this weekend about, what was your talk about that you did at the conference?
Yes. So it was about the history of paranormal research. That was half of my presentation, was just talking about the people and the organizations who, from basically the late 1700s, 1800s, have been scientifically looking into these anomalous topics and introducing people just to the fact that exists, and also highlighting some of the overlooked figures in that history. And then the second half of my presentation was actually going into detail on some of the databases that are freely and openly accessible that people can use to find all sorts of, information, not just about the paranormal, but I tailored it, of course, to finding information about, strange events.
Okay. Okay. Well, I think that's great. I think people love stuff like that. I mean, you know what? People love to hear the stories, right? But people want to know how they can directly get involved with this stuff. And I agree. I don't think it's something that we talk about a lot just in the paranormal in general, maybe for fear of somebody stealing our thunder. I don't know. I don't know if it's just that we want to be the pioneers, right? We want to be the discoverers and the researchers and the investigators. But I'm excited because the only way that it is going to get legitimized is if you can have regular, average, everyday people get into this stuff. And people, like I said, they just like to be involved. So I think it's great. Now, you
Thank you.
talked about teaching the class. Do you have plans to do that again in the future?
Well, I hope so. The class that I taught was part of a special seminar for honors students and graduate students. It was like one of those hybrid classes. And it's just a program that's I don't think they offer the same exact seminars every single, semester.
Sure.
So they rotate it, and I would love to in the future. I hope that happens. I think students had a great time with it. It got good feedback, and it was really cool to see students' assumptions about all of those things, the research process, credibility,
Right.
the value of the paranormal, the availability of paranormal resources. It was cool to watch them unpack all of that.
Well, you could certainly do your own type of private workshop and teach things like that. I mean, that could be an option. Then again, you're talking 10 times the work, curating it and getting people that would attend and things like that. But gosh, I think that would be really, really cool. I think that like even making it kind of more accessible, so making it like a 16 and up program. I mean, because if I were
Yeah,
a teenager and there was something like that available to me, I would have done it for sure. Um,
right.
and there definitely wasn't anything. I got to go to a cryptozoologist came to actually the writer of the Weird USA books, and had just done Weird Ohio. He came and spoke at the library and of course was selling books, and I jumped all over that, but wasn't really anything else like that, that you could go to.
That's a
I don't know.
really great idea.
It's just
Yeah,
an idea.
it's just an idea, right? I love it. I have sort of thought about that. I am just coming off of finishing my second book, and I am starting my sabbatical.
Sure.
My sabbatical started last week, and so I'm I'm sort of a little like low energy,
Sure.
but I'm looking forward to taking some of the time on my sabbatical to think about how I can continue this momentum. And I think your comment about that is very well taken, and also too, it reminds me, and something you said a little bit earlier about that sort of like that air of like competition and gatekeeping that sometimes
Right.
happens, and sometimes happens quite a bit
Sure.
perhaps in the paranormal. I also want to point out too that if people kind of dig like what I do, they should also look into librarians who have come before me who have also done very similar things. Like Rhea White did a lot of parapsychological research and bibliographical research like I do. George Eberhardt put together this amazing book called, are you ready for this? A Geobibliography of Anomalies. And it's this gigantic book about, like, just all sorts of strange experiences from UFOs, ghosts, creature sightings. I mean, so I'm not the first weird librarian. So if people are into this, they should check out those other folks too.
Wow. Okay. I think well, I'm not surprised that you're a librarian and that you're weird. I think that that's probably actually pretty normal. And I agree. I think that I'm glad that you're able to kind of go out there and present and say, hey, don't be afraid to ask us, right? That's kind of what we're here for. That's kind of my job as a librarian, is to help you research these topics. It's just that you found the niche community that needs to um, be a little bit more separated from the stigma, which
Right.
is still what we're working on. It's just as sad as it is, it's 2022. And I know a lot of people forget, especially people that listen to the show. You guys forget we're all standing way too close to the sun, right? We don't realize that like normal people all the time aren't thinking about ghosts and cryptids and aliens. We are. We're weird. So we still have to normalize it and get rid of that stigma, and showcase things like, your local librarian could be a weirdo.
And
Right.
especially in a field where so much of it is just done by people googling shit. You know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
that's like a joke that me and Ashers have all the time. Like, or are they really? Are they not that we're being gatekeepers, but some people put in a lot of research and some people just Google shit. And
Right.
and I understand the trap of just googling shit. It's very easy. You can do it on your
Right.
phone. You can do it while waiting in line at the post office,
Yeah,
whatever.
we all do it.
Right, but to emphasize, no, going back to the library. There's certain things that can be gained from going into a library, consulting with a librarian, doing research from you make the point, public libraries are great resources, but so are academic libraries as well. And a lot of those are free to the public or free to local residents. And that's not something that you hear championed a lot, I feel like, in today's paranormal culture. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
that it's being shunned upon, but it's just something that we need to remind ourselves. Like, there are great resources out there for free, as long as you're willing to put clothes on and go outside.
Right. I totally agree with you, and I'm glad that, yeah, that sort of comes through in the book. And also too, I really want to remind people that there are so many wonderful databases. You don't even have to put clothes on and go into a
Ooh,
building.
I
Like
love
you
that.
can you can access, for example, there is a really cool database called Chronicling America. Chronicling America, I think it's historic American newspapers from the Library of Congress, and it's online. It's a freely and openly accessible database that has historic newspapers from like 1600 something to 1963. And it's just, you can type in, whatever it is that you want to type in, whether it's paranormal or not. And it's all digitized newspapers from across the country. And it's really fun. It's just fun sometimes to dig into that and look at these articles, especially in like the 30s and 40s, about psychical researchers and their experiments, and you know famous poltergeist cases, or whatever primary sources. Like if people are interested in the Lizzie Borden case, oh my gosh, go to that database and find the actual primary like newspaper sources that were talking about it, and dig into it and just see what you learn.
I think that's awesome. I think it's great that you're doing this. That you're because you can't. A lot of people don't know how. That's the number one issue is that they don't know how.
Yes.
One of the questions that people ask me all the time is like, how do you do this? How do you get into it? What does that mean that you do this full time? They're very curious about not the stories, just the job itself. How do you do this full time? And it is hard when you're learning, and you're kind of trying to learn the ropes initially because you're like, eh, you're just kind of lost, kind of wandering around. So I wish I had found your book before when I
Yeah.
had started, because the lack of, like I said, the lack of resources is an issue, and just these reference guides. I mean, we need them so badly, because community is our biggest asset to discovery, and we need as many people as possible that can get to this information and can study it, because we need all the perspective that we can get. Which is, I love this. You're not you're not Dr. Jeff Meldrum, right? You're not an anthropologist, or you're not a zoologist, but you are a master of research, and that is just as significant as having an astrophysicist or having a zoologist, or
Right.
whatever it is that that people are doing with their credibility. I mean, we need, like I said, every little bit of resource that we can get, and I think it's great. I love this. I love everything about it.
Oh,
Oh
go ahead. Sorry.
no, it was just that was very nice of her. I was just going, ah.
Yeah,
Pat's not
no,
used to that. He gets the
I,
mean side of me.
I really, really appreciate everything that you said, and I really love what you said. It's about getting all the perspective you can get, and I think
Yeah.
you really hit the nail on the head. My books and the things that I talk about, like it's not at all about me giving people answers to any of these paranormal questions.
Yes.
It's basically all about how helping people find the resources where they can get as much perspective and like round out the information about a particular event, person, case, or whatever, so that they can come to their own educated conclusions about something. And like you said, there's so much information out there. It is so easy to get lost in the digital spaces, the physical spaces. And so just being able to collate everything and just be like, hey, here are some good places to start.
Right.
Because like you said, it's so hard for people to know where to go. And then Pat, like you were talking about, we default to Google because we're used to it, and
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that, but sometimes you just don't know what you don't know.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, and I love that you're saying that. I say that all the time as an investigator and even as a show host. It's not my job to tell you what to think about these things. It's my job to take the pieces of the puzzle and hopefully put it together and help finish that puzzle a little bit more. And if I just finish a corner in my lifetime, hey, that's a corner. That's a corner closer. So, that's I love that. I couldn't agree more. So the second book, it's not out yet. Is that right? This is not.
Right. It's not out yet. It comes out in September. September 15th, I believe, is the tentative release date, and it is an encyclopedia of parapsychology. So it is well, it's an encyclopedia.
Sure.
um I go through I present it in a little bit of a different way, though. The first part of it is biographical sketches of historic parapsychological and psychical researchers, modern researchers, and then biographical sketches of the mediums and the people who were so often at the center of these parapsychological inquiries. And then I present an annotated bibliography of resources from the 1870s through the 2020s. Um, so it's a lot,
Wow.
and I'm very
Sure.
excited for it to come out. And I'm also pretty tired.
Well, I understand the sabbatical. Are you going to be obviously not right now because it's just now coming out. Are you going to be updating this maybe in later years with new information?
I think that that's a possibility. Um, but I don't have any like solid
Current
plans,
plans, yeah.
or haven't had any discussions with my publisher and my editors about that. But I can see how that could possibly be a thing, and I would definitely be open to it. And that's sort of my goal in writing and presenting what I presented, was to update it from other really wonderful encyclopedic resources on this topic, because my book, my encyclopedia of parapsychology, is not by any means the first type of book on that topic, or that encyclopedic treatment of that topic. But you know, like there was one that was published maybe like 30 years ago, which is great, but there's been, like there's been work since, and just updating it to include like modern figures that have come along, and modern research that has come along. So yeah.
Okay.
What what chapter or topic excited you the most for the encyclopedia?
Oh, that's such a good question.
That's
That's
Okay.
like
what I do.
asking who your favorite child is.
Right, right. Oh my gosh. Okay. I really love the spiritualism era of,
The 1920s and stuff.
yeah, like that sort of like 1880s through the early, yeah, 1900s, like you're talking about. And I love it just because I don't know, maybe I was like a Victorian in like a past life or something, but just that idea of like being in a séance and witnessing that sort of stuff, like I just really dig it. And I also really think it's cool that a lot of the, female mediums of the day, I mean, they were using the seance room as a way of circumventing societal expectations of the behaviors of women. And it was obviously performative, and I think some of it was probably genuine. I think there was also a lot of fraud and performance, but that's, I'm not saying any of that is good or bad.
But you like the
um
outfits.
yeah, oh my god, I mean, I just that
The
the vibe
aesthetic.
of,
You're
yeah,
like, oh,
yeah, just like the moody lighting, and like the dark rooms, and yeah, the seances and the table tipping. I mean, I'm just like, take me back.
so you have like a fair amount of like just going off the book, but like I mean, you go out and you go to these places and you have a fair amount of experiences yourself. Um, is that something I thought that was very interesting because you don't always get that crossover. So I mean, you have obviously you have the academic credentials, but you also like to go to these places and try to see the stuff.
Yes.
Is that something you think you're going to continue doing? Is there anything specifically like bucket list stuff you want to explore, places you want to go? And have you ever thought
Well,
about writing about those? Just a book about those or fiction? I know I'm throwing like 4 questions at you at once.
right.
That's okay.
Sorry.
Let the
Just
No,
girl
it's
get to them
breathe.
whenever you get to them.
that's great. No,
Just you
I
keep talking and we'll just shut up.
no. Oh my gosh, no. Okay, I have thought about doing a- another book idea that I have contemplated is that I would really love to capture the stories of haunted libraries, not only the stories of what's happening in these spaces, but also the stories of what it's like for people to work in these spaces, because I think capturing the humans that are like in these spaces daily is also important. Like, what is it like? um in terms of bucket list, in 2018, I got to travel to the United Kingdom and I got to go to Loch Ness. And that was such a bucket list thing
Wow.
for me. It was spiritual. I would love to go. I would love to go to the catacombs. I haven't been able to do that. I would love to. I'm trying to think of some like paranormal hotspots.
Well, just to back up for a second, you said Loch Ness was very spiritual for you. Was it
Yeah.
because of your own attachment to the place, or did you feel that there was something there was something spiritual happening there? It's interesting because when I was reading the book on Jack Parsons, he was a member of the OTO and a protege of Crowley's, and it's almost a throwaway line in there, but it's something I want to dig into deeper. Where some people attribute the last Loch Ness monster to Aleister Crowley, and he first summoned it or something, or
Yeah.
he had so there was some connection there. I haven't looked into it deeper, but um, yeah, you see a spiritual connection with the place, or
Yeah.
what was that about?
Yeah, yeah. So, I think it was a combination of the Loch Ness monster story being one of the very first paranormal stories that I remember reading as a child, and
Right.
always having that fascination. But I do think that there was something a little bit more to it, and I don't think I've told this story actually publicly ever. So I'll tell you guys. I remember being on the train. I flew into London, and I was actually there for made my way up to Northern England for a library conference, and then just stayed in the UK for about a month, since I was over there, and it was the summer, and I was slowly making my way up Northern England and then to Edinburgh and up to Inverness, and back down again to London to fly home. But as I was on the train from Northern England to head into Scotland, I remember sitting on the train and looking out the window, and at one point I just had this overwhelming sense of, I don't know, this might sound silly, but I just had this overwhelming sensation that I was home. And I looked down like I was returning to somewhere that I'd like been before, or whatever. And I remember looking down at my phone, and I had just crossed over the border from England into Scotland. And it's just interesting to me that like physiologically something in me knew that I had just like crossed the border, even though there were no markers or anything like that. Yeah, so that's a little bit of it too.
Do
Wow.
you have Scottish heritage or anything?
Not that I know. I don't think I have any. I just,
Wow.
it was this, it just felt so familiar. It was such a cool place. And then being able to visit like Loch Ness, and I was staying, when I went to the UK, I stayed in Airbnbs pretty much exclusively because I wanted to meet people and talk to the people that live there, and the Airbnb that I was staying at, right pretty much on the loch, was this wonderful woman, like she lived there, and just getting to know her and driving around with her, like it was just the best. It was the best experience.
I think it's interesting because when you were just kind of talking about getting into this stuff, I mean, obviously the Loch Ness monster was the very first thing that you had said just on the show earlier.
Yeah.
So obviously it's something, it's a creature that you seem to connect with for whatever reason. So I mean, very very cool, very nice experience. I'm very jealous. I want to go.
You should. I hope you get to.
There's an old tale and I don't know all of it. Truth be told, I only really deep dive topics that I can physically get to and investigate. But I love lake monsters and I love aquatic cryptids. Like those are my absolute favorite. Anything
Yeah.
that can swim and anything that can fly, I'm there. But there's like an old legend that a redhead would stand at the loch and could summon Nessie by singing to it. So when I go, that's what I'm gonna do.
Does it count if
Yes.
you're if it's like a dye job though? Like,
I
does it
am
know?
transgender, so I was
Transgender.
I was born a blonde, but I'm supposed to be a redhead. So,
I
I think it counts.
I think it counts.
you're manifesting your best self. I have a follow up question though, because you bring up, well, I guess it's for the both of you, but you bring up you've alluded to like past lives and stuff, which is something that we've never talked about on this show. But I feel like such I grew up in a household where new 80s and 90s new age stuff was kind of all over the place, right? And this idea of past lives was something that was talked about fairly often. You know what I mean? It wasn't something that like was super dwelled on, but it's a concept that I was very familiar with at a young age. Even though being raised Catholic and going through 12 years of Catholic school totally flew in the face of everything that Catholicism teaches. Like, you're not reborn or anything like that. You have one life and then you go to heaven. So, like Asher's, like, what's your like past lives? Have you ever gotten a sense of that, or like a feeling for that? Um, I don't necessarily feel like I have, but once again, going back to the other book that I was reading this weekend, like that was something that was brought up a lot too, and it kind of made me stop and think about it. How this was one of these paranormal 14 concepts that were very popular, and seemed like it's maybe waning a little bit now. I don't know if the past lives thing is as hot as it used to be. Uh,
Um,
but
yeah, no, that's a good question. There is somebody who would love to bring on the show, and we could get him on the show, who believes that he died during the Silver Bridge collapse.
oh wow.
And yeah.
What?
Yeah, oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's very, very, very cool. He has the most impressive and like, Mothman's my thing, but he's got the most impressive Mothman collection that you've ever seen. And it's not just like little knickknacks and shit. Like he's got a piece of the bridge.
Wow.
Oh yeah, all kinds of stuff. I'd love to get him on the show. But yeah, I mean I've talked to him. Personally, I don't remember any past lives. I have no memories of things like that. However, I do subscribe to numerology quite a bit, more so than even like astrology and things like that. And in numerology, you're born with a particular life path. And in numerology, you kind of continue to like be reborn and you're kind of working your way up through the numbers. So if you're born at a 1, then your next life you're going to be at a 2, and those numbers kind of track the whole theme of your entire life and your purpose and like what you're doing here. So I mean, I do I'm not going to say I 100% believe in the concept, but I can definitely lend some, I could see some truth there because, like I said, I subscribe to that idea. So that's what I think about it. What about you, Courtney? Do you follow that, or do you maybe have past life memories? I don't know.
Wow, that I was just really taking in everything that you said. Um because I was just making a numerological connection as you were talking. So I'm like you. I'm open to it. I honestly kind of don't know if I 100% believe in like anything. Full stop.
Yes,
Like
right.
I don't even know if I 100% believe that I'm like sitting here in my
Same.
office like
Yeah, I have that problem a lot.
right. But I think that that's a healthy way of looking at especially things like the paranormal, like, hey, okay, that's interesting, like
That's
that
a
could
thing.
happen. We don't know everything, like we don't even know what consciousness is, like maybe I don't know. But I don't have any uh real specific like past life, experience or stories. I think the closest thing that I get to that is that really intense feeling on the train, crossing over, and just like knowing in my like body, like I am here, like
Mhm.
and I don't know if that's because maybe when I was young, like my mind and my energy was like focused on like Loch Ness and the United Kingdom, and maybe it was to get a little woo about it. Maybe like my consciousness had spent so much time there that I recognized it physically when I was there. And when what you were saying, Asher's, about numerology just made me think about this dream that I had a couple years ago in July of 2020. My grandfather had passed away, and a couple of weeks after, I had a dream where I was standing like right next to him. We weren't looking at each other, we were standing next to each other, and he just lifted up his hand and pointed towards me, and he said, "Your number is 13."
Okay.
And that was basically it. And then we both sat down like at the same time, like synchronized, like sitting. Like we both sat down like in the same way at the same time on a set of folding chairs. And then which is interesting because I am grandchild number 13. But also, as you were just talking about like numerology and like incarnations of lives, I was just like, well, like I just sort of had a moment like, wow, maybe there's something to that, because I remember my parents telling me one time that was one of the first things like my grandmother had kind of said about me when I was born, like she's an old soul.
Sure, and that could certainly do you know what your life path number is?
No.
Okay, well, we won't do it on the show. We'll talk about it after the show. I'll help you out. We'll see
Okay.
what the significance is there. But 13 actually breaks down to the number 4. So if you have a two-digit number, right, you take the two numbers and you add, or three digits or whatever, you add them together until you're down to a singular number. So you would be down to 4. And 4 is a big signifier of change. I mean, it's hugely significant. 2020 was a 4 year, and as you know, 2020 just shit hit the fucking fan, and the world has never been the same since then.
Right.
But anyway, we'll sit down and we'll talk about it outside of this.
Yeah. Cool. I'm excited.
Maybe we've never done a show in numerology. I don't talk about my spirituality a lot just because, you tell people you're a witch and they freak out. So they get their
Yeah.
pitchforks and they come for you and they hate you. So, I mean, and I'm just like, guys, I just manifest. It's the same thing as prayer. Like, we're doing the same thing.
Yes. It's the same thing as prayer.
Literally the same thing.
I know, I'm with you. And Pat, something that you said, I really identified with. I was raised Catholic as well, and there's
In
so much.
Indiana?
Yeah,
Whoa.
yeah.
What Catholics are? What do you mean? There's no Catholics in Indiana?
Not that I know of. No, but
Oh
good
well.
for you guys.
Pat also doesn't think there's juggalos in Chicago, but
There's not.
Oh my gosh. But it's funny though, because there's so many parallels, especially the ritualistic aspect of Catholicism. Like, my god, it's steeped, no pun intended, it's
yeah,
steeped in ritual.
yeah,
And
Hmm.
even though I don't necessarily practice Catholicism, I there are those parallels. Like, I have a deep appreciation for ritual. But I'm also kind of like you, Ashers. I don't really talk about that a lot.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's a good. It's like it's the same reason why we don't talk politics on the show much because then you kind of alienate different people, and I just want people to have the information.
Yeah, for sure.
I
Yeah,
think that's why when I got older and I started to read about different religions, that having the background in Catholicism made me way more open to reading and kind of I guess I'm tolerating, but whatever. Other faiths is that uh, Catholicism is so magicy, and compared to the other religions, especially like I married a girl from Indiana that's Lutheran, and that's why I brought that up, is because all her people, her clan, are all Lutheran, and that is so stripped down. Protestant religions are so kind of stripped down, and I get what they that's the whole point of them, right? Was that they were trying to go away from what the Pope and the Roman Catholic Church was doing and bring it back to basics. But having that background in Catholicism, yes, you're used to the statues, you're used to the saints, you're used to the candles, you're used to the different prayers and all that stuff, and asking for intercession and all this. And when you start reading about pagan religions and stuff, it doesn't seem that foreign. And that was one of the first connections that I made, was that people talk about the power of prayer, and yes, it's manifesting will. It's just used in a different way and described differently, but it's the exact same process.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's a good question about the life paths, and definitely interesting about just ritualistic religion. Um, yeah, I don't subscribe to most religion just because it's whatever. I'm alive now, right? That's my purpose, is to be alive right now, and I'll figure it out what happens when I die, right? I'll worry about it then.
Right.
But it's just kind of my general rule. If I was meant to know, I would know, and I don't, because I'm just a human. I wish I wasn't. I wish I was something cooler, but I'm not. Um, I'm the coolest human, but
You're a podcaster. I
I'm a
mean, that's
podcast.
got to count for something, right?
I guess so. I don't know if maybe God doesn't like podcasts. I don't know. Maybe he loves them. We'll see. Maybe he's
I
fan.
think I think she loves this one.
Yes, I was just about
Come
to
on, I beat you to it.
Yes, this is
I know those dog whistle phrases. Come on.
this is her favorite podcast.
Her favorite podcast, right?
Oh my God, we should
Wink,
make a
wink.
sticker that says God's favorite podcast, and then it's on Wednesdays we talk weird. Anyway,
Yes,
so
that
many
would
birth
be
ideas. We're doing it.
genius.
Put that shit on a fanny pack, yo.
Yes. Um, that's so funny. Anyway, so the what were we talking about? Oh, your next book. Oh my gosh. So you said it's coming out September?
Yes, yeah, it's tentatively slated, I think, for September 15th. And
Which is a
yeah.
Thursday, almost. I was hoping it would be on a Wednesday, but no.
Ugh,
Oh man,
Septem-
how great would that be?
It
that
would
would have
have been
been
awesome.
synchronicity. It would have
Yeah.
There you go.
it would have been perfect. Do you have any very specific and particular theories about anything in general? Some of us, even though we're very open about things, there are some hills that like we are just going to die on. Mine is, Mothman was never a moth type creature, not even an owl type creature. It's a person. It looks like a person, and it's a very personal experience, not a harbinger of doom. Do you have anything like that in your repertoire there?
Wow, that's a great question. I'm trying to think of how to answer that. I want to lean towards no, just because I'm so open to just the weirdness of it all,
Sure.
that and I guess the only thing that I am sort of dedicated to is that I don't know shit. um
Yeah, that's fine.
like we have theories, and theories are great, but at the end of the day we don't know. And so I guess the only hill maybe that I would die on is that, people who maybe, are adamant in telling you, like, I know for a fact that whatever it is, fill in the blank,
Sure.
it's kind of like, well, okay, well, like, it's not really my jam.
Sure.
But no, I mean, I do sort of joke with people sometimes that I feel like everything is kind of a ghost, if you will. Like, I get
Sure.
very philosophical about it. I do really enjoy kind of talking about that notion, like, even that the idea that we, like the three of us, we're ghosts, right? Like, we're the people that we're going to be 2 years from now. Like, that's a ghostly form. The people that we were 5 minutes
Oh,
ago, that's a
okay.
ghostly form.
You ever
Uh,
read Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance?
I have not.
Oh, because that's the one of the theories espoused in there as well.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
get
we're
very.
surrounded by ghosts.
Yeah, yes, I do think that. So maybe that's one of the things to answer your question, Ashers. But yeah, I get very philosophical about it. I don't have any hard and fast definitions for anything,
Sure.
really.
Sure. I know. I think that's good. And I think I love that you bring that theory up in particular, because that's not one that you hear a lot about. So I think that's neat that, you think that. I get, I don't believe that ghosts are what we think. I don't think they're dead people.
Yeah.
You know, I just don't. I just think that that's very sad if like you can die and then you end up still
Yeah.
being fucking here. You know, so
Right, right,
how terrible.
right.
You know, and one time I stood up at a whole paranormal convention and told everybody that I thought that, and they were like, oh, and I was like, wait a minute, hold on, because I didn't say
Right.
hauntings weren't real. I just said ghosts aren't real or ghosts aren't dead
Yeah.
people. You know, so that's very interesting that you have you know, something. But I think it's a good thing to keep an open mind because I'll tell you, when I started in all this, a lot of my opinion, and we've even done it on the show, you know, and I'd like to revisit more topics eventually, but we never really run out of shit to talk about. But you know, to kind of revisit different topics and kind of look at where it is now because my opinions change so much with new information, and it should.
Yes.
You know, it should. So you know, personally, I understand. I hate dying on any hill. Like this is what it is. I know for a fact because I know how quickly that can change with just a new story or a new
Right.
pattern or you know whatever it is you're researching. You
Right.
know, can definitely, and I think that's really important. I think that once you have people who have had the same opinion about things for years and years and years, um, that's probably a problem.
Right. And it really reminds me of something you just said there. Reminds me of how the occurrence of near death experiences skyrocketed drastically after the invention of the defibrillator, right?
Hmm.
So when we suddenly had this ability to shock people and bring them back literally from the dead, I mean, to get a little poetic about it,
Sure.
we people were suddenly reporting in large numbers these experiences, and these near death experiences. And so it's also like you were saying about change, like the more that we create things and invent things, we learn more about how, just consciousness and the human experience. And um yeah, I think when you are too tied down to like your beliefs, you lose the ability to kind of expand your horizon.
Yeah, definitely. We should do an episode on near death experiences too.
Dude, we should. I didn't want to bring this up, but talking about defibrillators, I just got one put in.
He did. Yeah. I did
I
literally. This
I
happened
think I think we need to give this thing a fucking shot and see what
less than a
happens.
week ago. Yeah. You ready to find out, Pata?
Oh, let's do it. That'll put that on the Patreon. Shit, man. Fucking, we'll meet up with Tobias Whalen in Milwaukee. Right. I've always gotten good vibes in Wisconsin. We'll go up to Milwaukee or Kenosha, and at the Broad Stop, we'll host it at the Broad Stop.
Oh, we're just gonna get like a fucking just a whole
We're gonna
call,
party till
and we're
Pat
gonna
goes into
do the
cardiac
whole
arrest.
thing. Yeah.
My defibrillator will kick in. We'll videotape the whole thing, and I'll tell everybody what I saw.
This is very Flatliners vibes now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Love that
there you
movie.
go. I didn't say I didn't invent the idea, but I will
No.
be. I'll carry it through to fruition.
Pat's willing to be the guinea pig. I mean, hey,
We were
you
going to
know
do the
what?
DMT thing. We haven't found the DMT yet, so this is Plan B.
Oh no, we can make the DMT. It's the doctors we have to find. That's the hard part.
Well,
But that's the difficult one. Trying to get people to sign off on a DMT experiment is hard. It's difficult.
now my niece is a nurse. She'll do it.
Okay, let's do
Yeah,
it.
she's like a
She'll do it.
Botox nurse. She has like Botox parties in my sister's basement, where like her friends come over and she gives them injections and shit.
I don't think that's legal.
Well, I forget I said anything. Sorry, I'm not trying to rat her out. I was like, I thought like, hey, look at her
Everybody
gumption.
listening to this, just forget that
Yeah.
Peta was lying. That's a
I
hoax.
think you can have because she also does like the IV of vitamins thing when you're hungover.
Yeah,
Like,
I feel like I've heard of Botox parties.
yeah, I don't think it's that illegal. I
All
mean,
right, I'm not
maybe in the same way
going.
you shouldn't do tattoo parties because there's some kind of health department thing. Like you probably shouldn't be able to like put a tattoo, like do a tattoo on somebody in someone's
At
living
home,
room
yeah.
at a kegger with like dogs running around and shit. But like people still do it. It's not like criminal. It probably like breaks like health code violations, but it's not
Yeah,
criminal.
but I think you can lose your license, your medical license, if they find out you're doing stuff like I don't know. I don't know what the ins and outs
Nurses
are.
they have bachelor's degrees. They don't have medical licenses. They're just nurses.
They have they're nursing license.
Well, I was gonna say, let's wait. I mean, give him more credit than that. They're amazing.
Right. It's not just
No,
a
no,
cast.
no, 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 no. I'm not trying to take anything away from them. I'm just saying I don't think they have to be licensed. They're like librarian. Would you? I mean, I assume she would know. You can settle this.
I don't know. I mean, I think that I really don't know. I would assume that there's probably some sort of credentialing that happens. Probably.
And you can
I don't know.
lose them for malpractice. I mean, you can't just like go malpracticing all over the place. Like you have to, you have to have like some type of, I know people that do a lot less in the medical field, that have gotten in trouble for a lot less.
All right. We'll just okay.
Oh.
Just cut all this shit out then. I'm sorry.
No, I'm keeping it. You know what? I'm keeping it in.
All right.
You done said it. Now everybody go to Pato's niece
No, 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 no.
and go get your Botox and your hangover
Shh.
vitamins.
That's right. Frank, California.
For
That's not
California's niece.
Yes.
Anyway, what were we talking about before? I don't even remember how we got to that. Whatever.
We were talking about near-death experiences.
Near-death
Yes.
experiences, yes. Yeah, they're really interesting. That's been a topic that I've been really heavy into studying. And before I almost died, I didn't cross over. I didn't have a near-death experience where I almost crossed over, but I almost died, and it had a lot of it still has a lot of psychological stuff to it. But since then, just because I've been trying to get help with my psychological stuff, I've also opened up a whole new can of worms into near-death experiences because I had a fascination with them before, and it's really interesting how different the stories are. They're just vastly different. I have a friend that died 4 times, legally died 4 times. They're a drug addict.
What?
It happens, yeah. And nothing happened each time. That's what they said. Nothing. What happened? Nothing. Nothing. I just woke up and I was alive. And that's kind of honestly probably the most comforting answer to me personally, is that you just don't even know that you died. But I've also had people that had interesting, like my grandma, I think I've told this on the show before. She saw a lot of really weird shit before she died. She knew she was going to die. She told us all.
Wow.
And had everything planned. She knew she was going to die, and then she saw like aliens and shit before she died. I mean, she had a lot of weird,
Whoa.
yeah, she had a lot of weird stuff. She my aunt, one time, she called my aunt and was like, why don't you just come inside? And she's like, what are you talking about? She was like, I see you outside standing around the door. And she's like, no, that's not me. And my grandma wasn't like demented. She had dementia, or she wasn't losing her mind. I mean, she was very of sound mind, and she was seeing aliens just sitting in the living room, and my a doppelganger of my aunt outside. I mean, very interesting stuff. So I've always been fascinated by the topic, and now that I've had kind of my own situation, and it's brought me kind of back to digging into it a little bit more. I've read people's stories, and they're all so different from each other. And it just solidifies that, God, we really don't know. We really have no fucking clue.
Wow. So, did you say your grandma saw a doppelganger of your aunt while she was in that sort of end of life stage?
She was, yeah. She was still at home when that was happening, but it was within a couple of weeks after that she passed. She saw her outside, walking around outside, and was
Wow.
like,
And
just come on in.
your aunt at the time, was she alive?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. She's
That's
alive.
so fascinating. That reminds me of the publication Phantasms of the Living that came out like early 1900s, late 1800s. I can't exactly remember, but that the Society for Psychical Research put together, and they discovered basically that people were reporting large numbers of seeing these phantasms of the living, if you will, which it sounds like your aunt was a phantasm of the living because she's alive. And these, usually what it was is these instances of people who like if I were sitting here and saw an apparition of somebody, I would later learn that they had been like in a really bad accident, or maybe they had been in the process of dying, but they weren't dead yet, or they had like a near-death experience. But it's fascinating to me that this is sort of like the opposite. Like your grandma was the one that was in that sort of liminal process of, transitioning and dying. and she herself was that one in that near death state and saw a phantasm of the living.
It was a very odd, it was a very odd experience. She was on oxygen. She had really bad COPD. And somehow, some way, in the middle of the night, her oxygen line was kinked and she didn't
No.
have oxygen for so long.
No.
So she was rushed off to the hospital, and we all thought, well, that was it. She's going to die. There's no, there's not going to be any brain activity. But she fully and completely recovered from that. And
Wow.
then went on to go live another 2 months, and it was within that 2-month time period, again, this she was very independent, still, you could hold a regular conversation with her. I mean, she was in her 70s, so she
Mm,
wasn't crazy old or anything. She was very, very much of sound mind, but she would just say this shit, like, seeing my aunt outside, or like I said, she was, like, laughing one time with one of my other aunts. My grandma had a million kids, and, we're Italian,
mm,
and, she was just kinda laughing at my aunt. She was like, "Look at that funny guy next to you." And she's like, "What are you talking about, funny guy?" She was like, "The little alien, the little ET thing." And she's like, "What? The what?" And she was, like, insistent that there was, like, some creature that looked like ET sitting there.
I love it.
And, and it was just she was just having a normal conversation. It was weird. But also, my grandfather, it was my step grandfather, when he died, his wristwatch stopped at his time of death.
Whoa.
My grandmother, when she died, stopped at the time of her living room clock stopped at her time of death.
No way.
And it's just one of the craziest things. And this was all before I was an investigator. I mean, I was a paranormal enthusiast, and up until that point. Well, actually, I wasn't. I've always been into cryptozoology. I didn't believe in the paranormal and things, but it was probably one of the craziest paranormal experiences I've ever had. But it got me really interested in people that died and kind of what they were doing up until the point of death, and not just like old people. I mean, just everybody. Whenever people die, they seem to know that they're gonna die before they do it.
Right.
And I can't say that for certain just because it's not something that I have taken the time to really look into, but so far I've seen a lot of cases of it, and they just kinda know, and she knew. She told me, and she called me one day, she said, "Hey, I'm dying. What do you want?" And she's like, "What are you
Oh,
talking about? You're healthy." She's like, "No, I'm dying. It's gonna happen." And she just
wow.
knew. And it was
Right.
wild. So anyway, I didn't realize that was a phenomena that took place. I'm gonna look into that more and see. But yeah, near death experiences have definitely fascinated me. We recently had a study come out of people that were dying. And a lot they describe it like a DMT trip, which is why we kind of got interested in DMT a lot, was because
Yeah,
it's
purely
this thing.
academic reasons, not because we're degenerate drug users.
Yeah, I've never done it, but I'd like to. Well, I was into it because of the machine elves. I thought that was fascinating. People having the exact same experience and
Right.
watching each other having it.
Right.
That's great. Well, I mean,
So,
that kind of, you guys are touching on something that reminds me that I wanted to make the point that, you know, even though like I talk a lot about, accessing primary sources and talking about research that people have done too, like I don't ever want anyone to translate that as me saying that that's like the only way in which to view the paranormal, or that's like the only legitimate way, because to me the personal subjective paranormal experience is just as, if not more, important than
sure.
clinical laboratory study.
Absolutely. Well, you gotta have all of it, and that's the thing about it, is that it's a mixture of a lot of it. Just like you were telling your experience at Loch Ness. I mean, it's such a personal experience, but it doesn't make it any less real. And kind of sometimes, Tobias said something a long time ago that I agree with, on the subject of synchronicity, saying, describing synchronicity to somebody is like describing a dream, because it's so personal that you don't get it unless you're there
Yeah.
experiencing it. And a lot of these types of topics are a lot of that. It's a lot of intuitive feelings.
Right.
And it doesn't downplay the situation at all. I mean, we could have confirmation bias, that's true, but
Yeah.
we have these intuitive feelings also mixed with
Yes.
pieces of actual evidence. So,
Absolutely. Yes.
you know,
You're putting it so much better. Yeah, it's both and,
yes,
it's not either or. And
yes,
you can be somebody who loves and sees the value in, the scholarly literature, and also an experiencer, and you don't need anybody to validate the importance of that experience for you, and
right.
at the same time, value the scientific method. I mean, it's both and.
It's absolutely both. I mean, that's what the intuitive side leads to the curiosity, and the curious leads to the science.
For sure.
And
And like,
so you could
yeah,
be a master of either. You could be somebody that just does not believe in that woo shit whatsoever. It's
right.
ridiculous. I'm
Yeah.
only going to study the science. Or you could be somebody that's like, I feel it and I know it. Fuck the
Yeah.
science.
Yeah.
And you
Like, it just
still have an important part to play in the community.
absolutely. Absolutely. And that also reminds me that, like, you can just enjoy digging into like some of the databases and stuff that I talk about, like newspaper databases. Like, you can just simply enjoy
Yeah.
scrolling through them and reading them. You don't need to do anything with it. You don't need to, sort of turn it into anything, turn it into any product, if you will, or whatever. Like, it's okay to just enjoy and have fun and be entertained by these things and
Right.
consume these things. Like, I feel like a lot of times people feel that pull to, like, do something with that, but it's okay to just like stuff, just liking shit is okay.
Yeah, that's totally valid. I
Yeah.
agree. I do like that. Pato, do you have any follow up? Any other questions?
No, I'm good.
Okay, fair enough. Courtney, where can people find you? And dig into your stuff, and more importantly, where can they buy your book?
Okay. Yeah. So I am most active on Instagram. You can find me at liminal.librarian. And I try at least once a week to have some lives where I'm reading these, old, like, newspaper stories about ghosts or whatever. And I'll just sort of tell you really quickly. One of my favorite stories that I've ever come across was in the late 1800s in Philadelphia. And it was about these two guys that were renting a room, like, in a boarding house. And one of them wakes up in the middle of the night, claims that he sees a ghost floating on a cloud. The ghost smacks him in the face and shoots through the ceiling.
Wow.
The way that it is written is, maybe this is bad to say, but the way that it is written is absolutely hilarious. And, like, you can see it. It's like a movie. Like, you can see it played out in your mind, and it is just like the best thing ever. And it's so just, like, hyperbolic and over the top, right? This ghost on a floating cloud, like, smacking people in the face. I mean, come on.
Is
Yeah.
this one of your Instagram lives?
Yes. I'll
From
have to find it and, like, reshare it. So,
what's the? Yeah, I was gonna say what week is it? Because I started to watch some of them.
oh yeah, I'm not exactly sure, but I'll see if I can find it and send it to you.
Cool.
And sorry for that loud noise. Just
Wow. I'm just
um,
kidding. It's fine.
that was me. That was me. Yeah, and people can find my book on Amazon. They can get it directly through my publisher, though, Roman and Littlefield. It's ROWMAN. And if you use the code RLF and F for our friends and family 30, RLF and F 30, you get 30% off.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
but also, too, I want to remind people that you can also ask your library to get a copy for you.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah. Ask your library to get a copy for you, because I so appreciate everybody who has got a personal copy of my book, like Pat. Like, I'm thank you so much. But I also understand that, like, we don't have the ability to buy all the books that we would ever want, and so ask your library to get a copy for you, because your authors still get paid, and then you get to read it for free. And I don't know, maybe you can spend your money on wine or cheese or something, but
Ooh,
you
yes.
still get to read it, and then it's in a library and other people can access it.
That is a wonderful I've never known anybody we've ever had on the show about books. I've never suggested that, and that's a great suggestion.
Yeah, I love that.
So that's wonderful. I'll put all the links down below, with that code on there as well, so you guys can get on
Cool.
and order. Okay, well then I guess that's all we have for you this week. Courtney, again, thank you so much for coming on. This has been fantastic. I loved every minute of it.
Likewise.
And
Thank you all for having me.
sure. Well, we'll see you guys back here next Wednesday.